Today we are talking about watercolor tags and tabs that you can use in journaling. You can put in a Happy Mail swap. You can use in your planners. There are tons of different ways that you can use these. You can use them on gifts. But they're really simple to make, and of course you'll need a few supplies to make them. You're going to need some watercolor paper. You can get watercolor paper anywhere from a craft store to somewhere like Walmart. You're going to need a couple of brushes and some water, of course. You will also need some watercolor. I am using my Pelican watercolors. I like them a lot. You can get them somewhat inexpensively off of Amazon, and I will link to those in my blog post. I like them because they're not as chalky as some of the cheaper watercolors that you can get at craft stores. You're also going to need something to make your tabs and tags with after you do your watercolor painting. You could just simply use some scissors, or I'm going to be using my Sizzix Big Kick along with a set of standard size cutting pads and a couple of dies. I'm going to be using Big's dies. I'm going to be using the Tiny Tabs and Tags die from Tim Holtz along with the Love Labels die. You could also simply just use a punch. If you have a tab punch or some gift tag punches, you could use those as well. So let's get started making our watercolor tabs and tags. All right, our first step for making our watercolor tags and tabs is we're going to take some watercolor paper. This is just a pack I bought cheaply from Walmart. We're going to tear out a sheet from the pack, and then we're going to watercolor it. Now, I've taken a large brush this size, and I've just wet this paper. That makes the watercolor blend more smoothly, where it's going to look better. You're going to get a better finished product. So now I'm going to take this brush. This is more of a, not a round brush, but you can see what it looks like. I'm not really sure what it's called. You take this brush and just load some watercolor on it, and then you're just going to let it do its thing. You want this to be really flowy. That's going to give it a really cool look. You can use different colors, almost maybe like a rainbow effect in places. You can drop dots of watercolor around. You can do pinks and reds. You can do colors that are complementary, or you can do colors that are just totally out there like a rainbow, and just add it all over the place. You can get it heavier in places, you can get it lighter in places, you can come back in with a different color, and what you'll notice is with watercolor, it's going to blend together really nicely since we wet our paper first. If we didn't wet our paper first, it wouldn't blend as nicely. You don't have to take it all the way to the edge. You can if you would like. But you can leave some white space because sometimes it's nice to have that white space in there. And you can pick and choose when we get ready to use our dyes. You can pick and choose what portion of the watercolor you want paper that would create that you'd like to use. One thing I also like to do is to wet my brush and get it loaded really wet, and then just kind of drop some color in there. When it's wet, it's going to spread out in a really cool way. But the cool thing about watercolor is you might be going for a certain look, and then something completely different might happen, and it might turn out to be really cool. All right, I'm going to take my heat tool now, and I'm going to dry this so that we don't have to wait quite so long for it to dry. Alright, now that this is pretty dry, it's still a little damp, but it's dry enough for what I want to do next. I'm going to take my brush and do what we just did before we dried it. I'm going to add some splatters. And what you'll notice about these splatters is that they won't bleed into the paper as much. They're kind of just going to sit right on top of it and be these cute little, not really polka dots, but just really little just paint splatters. You can do different colors. They're probably not going to mix all that much at this state in the game when everything is pretty dry. They just turn into little dollops of colory goodness. And if you want it heavier, just get crazy right there. All right, I'm gonna leave this the way it is. I think I like it. I'm gonna dry it. Once I get it dried, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have my big kick set up and some of my Sizzix dies, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna take this and make it into pretty tabs and tags. All right, so my watercolor paper has dried really well. I used some scissors to cut it to be the size to use with some of my big dies. I'm going to be cutting this paper with my Sizzix Big Kick and some of these big dies. I'm going to be using the Tiny Tabs and Tags die, as well as the Love Labels die, and a pair of standard size cutting pads. So I'm going to take one of the cutting pads and put it in my Big Kick. I'm going to choose this die first. This is the Love Labels die. I'm going to put my paper face down on top of the die, and then I'm going to take it and put it on top of this cutting pad. I'm going to take my other cutting pad and put it on top of that. Now we just made a Sizzix sandwich, and so this Sizzix sandwich I'm going to roll through my Big Kick. And just like that, you'll see we have some really cool shapes. So let me flip this over for you. We have a big tab. We have a cool circular tag, and it even has the hole punched out of it. We have a little banner, a different size banner, and we have this fun little label. It comes where you can take the middle out, so I could use maybe another piece of paper that I cut for this and insert it in there so it'll be something different, or I could just put this over something. And we also have the little piece that goes over the circular die. And yes, I know I have some paper that I didn't use, but I can simply take one of my tab punches and I can actually use some of the leftover paper to make some other tabs and just pop that out, and so then we have some leftovers that we can work with there as well. So I'm going to repeat that with the other big die. Once again, put my cutting pad down, take my big die, put my paper over it, standard size cutting pad over that, and lay it on top of the one that's in my machine, and roll that sandwich through my Big Kick. And then once again, we have lots of cool little pieces that we can work with. We have a tag, we have a little tiny itty bitty baby tag, and an even smaller one. We have another circular tag, but a different size. We have a tab that's kind of fun because when you fold it, it's going to be circular, so that's neat. We have another type of tab that when we fold it, there's going to be a little window, so we could put something there. We have another size tag and another size little circular tag. And once again, and of course you have the little hole reinforcers for your tag or your tags. And then once again, we have some excess that we can use our punch with. So by simply taking some watercolor paper and having some fun, just splashing some color onto our watercolor paper, and then using our fun Big Kick along with our dies, we were able to make a lot of these cool tags and tabs. So next time you're getting ready to journal and you want something a little different and you don't want something that's store-bought to put on your page, try something like this. It seems like it takes a lot of effort when people look at the finished product, but it really doesn't. Alright, so once you've made all your beautiful watercolor tags and tabs and other cutouts from the excess paper that you had left over, you might be wondering, what am I going to do with them? So I wanted to add a little bonus to the video to show you a fun way that you can use one of these tags. You can actually emboss them. So I have selected one of the tags. I put the reinforcer around it with some glue, and now I have this stamp set from Growing Meadows. Growing Meadows is an Etsy shop that you can get really cool biblical stamps from. And I'm going to take this cute little bird and I've put it on an acrylic block, and I'm going to use my Versamark watermark stamp pad, and I'm going to stamp that right onto the tag. So just make sure that you have a lot of the Versamark ink on your stamp. And then you're simply gonna turn them your tag around. Make sure you can see this. And you're gonna put your little birdie right there and give it some good pressure to make sure that you got them on there really good. And I know it's hard to see it because it is a watermark stamp, but that bird is on there. And I know it's probably hard to see. You might can see it when the light hits it just right, but it is there. Then I'm gonna take some embossing powder. This is Princess Gold by Ranger. I'm gonna just pour that on top of the tag. And you'll notice that I'm doing this on a piece of paper that I've creased in the middle because I don't want to waste any of my embossing powder. I want to be able to pour the excess back into the container that it came in. So I'm going to cover that really, really well, and don't worry, like I said, I'm not wasting it. And I'm going to just shake, shake, shake to make sure my little birdie is covered up really well. And I'm going to tap off the excess. And you can see my little birdie. Now, he doesn't like much now, but we are going to use our heat tool, and then he will be perfect and shiny gold. So let me pour this excess in here. You don't want to waste any if you can help it. All right, so let me set that to the side. Put the lid on that. All right, let's use the heat tool on our little fringe. And I want you to watch how this happens because it's really cool. Isn't that cool? So that kind of dull powder turned into a really fun metallic embossed image. So now we have our fun watercolor tag with a cool gold embossed image on it. And you can do embossing, of course, with any kind of stamp. And there are lots of different embossing powders that you can use. You're really only limited by your imagination with what you can do with your tags and your tabs that we created earlier. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope that if you enjoyed this video that you'll subscribe to my channel and that you'll check out my blog and my blog post about this to find links to a lot of the products that I used. See you later.